YouTube Ozzico and the Goat House is back, and it finally happened. Aaron Rodgers finally traded to the Jets. I was getting a little worried it was going to happen during the draft. It was going to be a little bit of a distraction, but no, happens just before, and it impacts the draft. Very interesting trade details that we'll break down in grade. Again, very intriguing one here. We'll be live during day one of the NFL draft right here on YouTube. Live analysis for each pick, day 2 and 3 on Twitter. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss that stream and all that content we plan on doing before, during, and after the draft. And make sure you follow us on Twitter to be kept up to date with all the picks and news, rumors, everything like that. So links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for, including our sponsors that you see on screen. More info down below. Trade details is definitely a in-depth one here. I guess a lot going on with this trade. So what we thought was going to happen, what we kind of projected, was there to be 2 second rounds involved going to the Packers, with one of those seconds being conditional, being able to turn into a first. So that is actually present here. 2 second-round picks, one can turn into a first, and I put conditional first. I did that for a reason. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's a first that could be a second, or second that can be a first. So what we expected is present, but there was some unexpecteds in here, some extra. First, the Packers actually move back from the 5th round to the 6th round. So 170 goes to the Jets. Packers get 207. So that's actually a negative for the Packers, a positive for the Jets. It's not super significant because it's a 5th and a 6th round pick involved there. But it is technically a positive for the Jets, a negative for the Packers. But then a first round picks were involved. 15 goes to the Jets. 13 goes to the Packers. So they swapped their first round picks. It's only a couple spots, but it is somewhat significant. We're talking about the first round, kind of early first round here. So that is pretty big. So that was not expected to be involved. So what was expected was in there, plus some, basically. So you see what the Jets get, including Aaron Rodgers. You see the picks the Packers get on your screen. That conditional pick, it's a second-round pick. Well, it's a first-round pick to me. It's likely to be a first-round pick to me. It is likely to be a first-round pick. Never know. Aaron Rodgers up there in age, so he doesn't play the 65% snaps, but it turns back into a second-round pick if Aaron Rodgers plays less than 65% snaps this year. So the Packers are rooting for him to play 65%, or just a little bit more is good, or whatever, as long as they get that first round pick. The Jets don't have to give up the first if he plays less than 65%. So like I said, the Packers are rooting for the first. Obviously, they're rooting for Rodgers to play over 65% snaps. They're rooting for the first round pick. Well, guess what? The Jets are actually rooting for the first round pick to go from them to Green Bay. Because if they were to be rooting to only give up a second, they'd be rooting for Aaron Rodgers to play less than 65% snaps. What would that mean? That would either mean Aaron Rodgers, not playing that many snaps, being injured, or the Jets playing very bad where they kind of sit him for the rest of the year so they don't have to give up the pick. Those are very bad scenarios for the Jets. You traded away a lot to go and get Rodgers. You invested elsewhere on the roster for Aaron Rodgers. You want him in this trade to work out, so you want to give up that first round pick. I don't really love that. I don't love the scenarios with the conditional picks where you're rooting to give up the better of the pick. That's that's something that I never really sat very well with me, I suppose. So that's very interesting. I do predict this to end up being a first round pick, which I thought, I don't remember if I explained this already, but I thought it was going to be, again, if the Jets go to the AFC Championship game of the Super Bowl, then it turns into a first. Or if Aaron Rodgers ends up playing, agreeing in the offseason he'll play another year, then it turns into a first, for the Packers. But it's just 65% snaps. So that specific part of it is definitely a win for the Packers. The two biggest things here for me grading this trade are the conditions and the 15-13 swap. Now, grading the Jets is a little tricky, and I'm going to give them a B. It's very tricky because with overall these trade details, given the circumstances, like the compensation here, I do not like it for the Jets. I don't like it. But why are they still getting a B? Well, because at the end of the day, they do get better with Aaron Rodgers. They get a lot better. It's a pretty good roster. They actually got Aaron Rodgers. There was maybe some doubt, not really, but maybe a little bit. And then number 2, even though I don't like what they gave up given the circumstances, for Aaron Rodgers, just straight up. Aaron, take away the circumstances, what's going on around, what's going on more than just the player. Just get the player, Aaron Rodgers, his talent. Overall, it's pretty good value for the Jets, but you do have to factor in the circumstances, and that's why I couldn't give it a better than a B. I thought the Jets should have had the leverage, and I thought, the second, and in a second that can turn into first makes sense, and then they actually go up from the sixth to the fifth. So right there, it looks like a win. But then you look at the conditions of the pick. You look at the conditions of the second turning into a first, and I do not like how easy it is. One, I don't like how easy it is for that second to be a first, and I don't like that the Jets have to root for it to be a first. I don't like that. I don't like that part of it. And then given that it's so easy for it to be a first, was it completely necessary for the Jets to go from 13 to 15 in the first round? I don't think it should have been necessary. So I felt like the Packers kind of got what they wanted, really, for the most part in this situation. And you could say they only go back from 13 to 15, and that's true. It's not too many spots. But I think it plays. I was talking about this on Twitter. I think it plays a major role. I mean, I'm already working on a mock draft. Before this, I was already kind of tinkering with one. And there's been scenarios throughout this whole process, and right now on where the Jets get. All right, Pierce Johnson's supposed to go earlier than expected. And then that could result in a team like the Bears taking a tackle where they were supposed to get Paris Johnson, so they get the next tackle perhaps. Skoronski, I think, somewhere in the top 10, but he's probably going to be a guard anyways. So that leaves, the Bears taking Broderick Jones or Darnell Wright, we'll say. So then that left the other one. I'd say Darnell Wright, the third one, to the Jets at 13, while the Patriots at 14, division rival, needed a tackle very, very badly. They're left with the next choice is, Anton Harrison. Way too early for that, So that was the bad thing for the Patriots in, not every scenario. Anything could happen in the draft. And that was the good thing for the Jets. But now it's reversed. They go from 13 to 15. The Patriots are sitting one spot ahead of the Jets. So the Patriots are almost winners in this trade as well. The Packers wanting to move up to 13, could that mean they're after something that they feel like they needed to move up for? Do they take a tackle in the future? I think it's possible. I mean, they could use a right tackle. They could, Bakhtiari may not be around forever, so could the Packers be on a tackle so the Patriots still kind of get screwed over either way? But the Jets moving back, does that say that they're if they were good with it, were they good with it going back to 15? Like they feel like the guy they want, they can get at 15, so maybe it's kind of a wild card type player, or did it have to be involved to get this trade done? They had to move back to 15, even though they didn't really want to. Obviously they probably didn't want to. So, there's a lot of factors, and the way I'm explaining it makes it sound like it's worse than a B, and it does look kind of bad because the Jets should have had the leverage, but the Packers kind of did, and it wasn't. Did the conditions need to be that? Give the Packers that much of an advantage again, most likely to be a first, and the Jets have to root for the first. Don't love that. So it kind of looks like a bad deal, but at the end of the day, they do get better with Rodgers. It's good that it happened before the draft, and technically, just looking at Aaron Rodgers, did they overpay? Technically, no. I do, we factored into the grade the circumstances are more than just Aaron Rodgers, the situation, a guy that the Packers had. That's another thing with the leverage. So the Packers, were they going to pay him $60 million to sit on the bench? I mean, they were prepared to, I guess, but they didn't want to do that, and he wasn't going to play for them, so that's why I thought the leverage should have been with the Jets there. But I give it a B because there is positives in there. It would have been, I thought about giving it a bad grade because there's a lot of negatives, and I didn't expect the Packers to win this trade, which we can show the Packers grade. Well, of course, the Jets will be a better team, but so I thought about giving a worse grade, but just getting Aaron Rodgers for a somewhat appropriate value, just anything less than a B, just did not feel right. But the Packers, I did not expect to be grading the Packers better than the Jets, predicting wise before this trade happened. And I did. And of course, if you would have said this, a year ago, Aaron Rodgers traded for this, for a swap of picks and getting a second. So, you probably would say no, like he's worth more than that. But then again, swapping early in the first round is some value. You get a second this year. It's a pretty early second. The next year pick is probably going to be a first round pick, So it's not too far off, but that's kind of the only negative thing, though, is like Aaron Rodgers, just by his name and his talent, capable of winning MVP. Maybe you think he would be worth a little bit more. But then again, given the circumstances where I think the Jets should have had the leverage, and I think what made sense was a second-round pick this year and a second that would have turned into a first, and that was present in the trade. But that first is more likely the way it is set up. They also move up from 15 to 13. You basically hop the Patriots. Will the Patriots and Packers, based on what they're looking to take, be a factor? Maybe, maybe not, but you still move up to 13 there to maybe get a little bit more confidence that you can get your guy perhaps, or you just have more of a valuable pick. So I don't think they'll trade back, but is there a scenario where they trade back and you get even more picks, trading back from 13 versus 15? There's a difference. Look at the trade value chart. There is a difference there. So even though there's only one pick in between. So given the circumstances, which I thought the leverage should have been with the Jets, Aaron Rodgers was not going to play for the Packers. He's going to cost them $60 million. I think they did pretty damn good here. Better than expected here. So and they move on to Jordan Love, which was expected. The other thing is, too, with the Jets is, what if Aaron Rodgers retires after this? That's another thing I forgot to talk about completely. Like couple things. What if Aaron Rodgers retires after this year? And it kind of goes into the other factor. Like, if he retires after this year, you better have won the Super Bowl. And that it kind of goes, like, if you got like a 1, 2, maybe 3 year window here for this trade to, because most trades, when you officially, I guess, grade them or determine how they were, it's down the line, but it's just fun to grade it now, obviously, but it's down the line. So, down the line for this trade to have worked for them, pretty much they would have to win a Super Bowl, or, do get close. I mean, it's going to be disappointing if you get close and don't win, but you got to be up there. You got to be up there, right? I mean, you invested a little bit more than just Aaron Rodgers. You got Allen Lazard to a pretty big contract, did some other things there as well. Full focus on this, winning right now, and it could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be 3. I don't see it any more than that. And a lot of money spent, $60 million, this year in cash to Aaron Rodgers. So it's a big risk for the Jets, and it looks like they lost some leverage, which doesn't look great. But again, it's so tough giving them under a B because they got Aaron Rodgers, they got better, they value for Aaron Rodgers. I said it a million times. It's all right, but there are some big factors where it makes it look like a risk for the Jets, and it's kind of a Super Bowl or bust team these next couple years. So we'll see what happens there. The Packers, I wish they would have done a little bit more in free agency, maybe, because I guess maybe they were showing that they were going to save space for Aaron. Maybe that's why they were able to make this, do this trade, get it better than expected, get better value than expected. But maybe now they, spend some money, maybe, a little bit, but we'll see what they do in the draft as well. But this was pretty wild, more wild than I thought it would be. Mainly with the 13-15 swap and the conditions. Like, those were the big things today. That was the big news today there. But that wraps it up. It's definitely an intriguing one, especially with the Jets, like, kind of all over the place. Like, there is big positives, but there's big negatives here. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Always talking with you guys on Twitter. We're going to get back to the NFL draft content. In a way, this was NFL draft content, but we'll get back to that live day one. And make sure you follow our Twitter for the rest of the NFL draft as well. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.